Welcome to RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network with your hostess, Jen Josie. Join like-minded real estate investors and accelerate your business towards greatness. You will hear step-by-step strategies for success, interviews with real estate rock stars, and we will dig deep into past projects where we bear it all, including the good, the bad, and some just plain ugly. So get excited. Here's the bestower of badassery herself, the real Jen Josie. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi, and welcome back. I'm Jen Josie, creator of RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Whoop, whoop. On today's episode, we have a special guest that will be sharing their badassery. But before we begin, here's today's badassery bestowment, my little badass gift to you. Today's topic is good or bad, habits always deliver results. So think about it. Whatever it is that we do consistently, good or bad, it always determines our future. Studies show that 90% of our behavior is habitual, and whatever habits you have established at this point are producing your current level of results. If you are unhappy with these results, the good news is you have total control in changing your habits in 2 simple steps. First, make a list of all the habits that may negatively impact your future. Examples could be letting emails pile up in your inbox, waiting until the last minute to pay bills, not delivering on promises to potential clients, or, like me, eating too much fast food. The second step is to make little changes to establish more productive habits. Examples could be answering those emails as soon as you read them, pay all your bills at the start of each month, follow through on your promises, or prepare healthy meals at home. Boring. So remember, the habits you develop this day forward will ultimately determine how your future unfolds. Now, on to today's episode of the Real Estate Investor Growth Network podcast. We have with us a master in mindset, Mr. Geoff Tyson. Geoff's real estate investment business, like many, suffered tremendously during the housing crash of 2008. He found he had to change his mindset to rebuild his business. Never giving up, this setback was set up for a comeback. Now he follows his passion by teaching other real estate investors how to change their mindset so their business will thrive even during the tough times. So welcome to the show, Geoff Tyson. Yay, welcome.
Hey, Jen. Thank you very much for that fabulous introduction. I appreciate that.
Yes,
and
welcome.
Honored to be on your show today. We appreciate that opportunity.
Thank you. And
sure.
I don't know you personally. And when we first started talking, I just love your voice. So I can't wait to hear it. So tell us a little bit about you. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up? Give us a quick background.
Yeah, real quick. Yeah, I'm a Midwestern guy. I grew up in Northeastern Ohio. Go Buckeyes, right? I graduated, went to college in the Midwest. Spent my first career in life in corporate America for about 18 years. I got to mention real quickly, I'll talk a little bit about it later. I was one of those athletes that had a vision of playing pro football, and obviously that didn't work out because you haven't heard about me there, but I was able to adjust to make some pivots, Jen, and get into corporate America and lived all over the country there for a while, and always knew I needed to do something different. So, late 90s, I got involved in my own business and I've been in business for myself since the late 1990, and lived all over the place, as I mentioned to you, and coming to you live now currently from snowy Houston, Texas.
Snowy, yes. You have this crazy storms going on down there. What did you do in corporate America?
It was interesting. I wanted to get into labor relations and law, and I'm gonna tell my age a little bit. That was graduated in college in the early 80s. And so corporate America was shifting. I wanted to get into basic industries, steel mills, auto production, being that labor force. And as we know, that just disappeared around that time frame. So I ended up going into working for American Drug Stores, which was a large grocery drugstore chain, Jen, and they were looking for entrepreneur-minded college graduates, and I was like, I didn't know that it was going to be a true blessing. because, I went into an aggressive management program, and as a result of 2 or 3 years, I was rewarded a store that had like a $3 to $5 million budget. So, I was learning how to operate a multi-million-dollar business, right out of college, and, being part of a Fortune 200 company. So I had the exposure there. And then that industry changed. Long story short, Walmart came in, and, the guys like me who were kind of the swing by the hip gun shooters and, the entrepreneur-minded managers found that we weren't going to be able to stay there because they took away all the benefits and the freedom. I mean, it was basically my business, for 12 years. But when that changed, I was like, okay, I'm 32, I had a lot of money in profit sharing, and I didn't want to get stuck. So that's kind of part of making pivots, right? And I looked around, and I wanted to go from a smock to a suit and tie.
Smock to suit and tie. I love it.
Smock to suit and tie, right? So I found an opportunity with Chubb Insurance companies, and they were based out of Warren, New Jersey, Jen, and I was in the Midwest then. So I was like, bring it on. Totally different industry. Didn't know anything about insurance really, but I had the operations perspective down and the management side down, and had a great time, with them doing the operations. I was the liaison between the producers and the external producers. So, there was hundreds of millions of dollars transferred every year. So I really had, an opportunity to touch that type of money and get around mindset environments that were really geared towards working at the highest level possible.
Gotcha. And it's funny because we chatted briefly before we started, and I was telling you how I was a former teacher, but after teaching, I was so burned out, I went into the insurance industry as well. That was the only place that would hire me at the time. So, I will never give up that experience, though. It taught me so much about working in corporate America and things like that. So I get it. So enough about me. Let's hear some more of that voice. So how did you get involved in real estate?
Well, it's interesting. I mentioned to you, I traveled all over. I was moved every 18 months for a while. So, as a child, actually, if I could back all the way up, as like a 5 or 6 year old boy, my parents had a home, and we were moving from that home to another home that they built. And my uncle was living in the home that we were living in. And my father said, he's not only your uncle, but he is called a tenant. Right. I mean, I'm scratching my head, tenant. And he says, yes. And tenants actually will pay to stay in this house. So it just, it's like, wow.
What a great education. That's fantastic.
Yeah, Jen, it was unbelievable because I said, I want to do that when I get older. I want somebody to pay for my house that I'm not living in. Simple child's perspective, right? So I was able to do that in corporate America. So I'd go to a new location, I'd either buy or build a home there. And when I left, I would just convert it to a rental property. So, I started to stack up several different passive income properties. And again, that mailbox money,
Gotta love it.
Gotta love it. In addition to what I was doing, I was like, man, I really, I couldn't get enough of that, and however, though, I had some family things come up, and corporate America was my professional football, Jen.
Yeah.
When I mentioned earlier about, losing that opportunity, that I wanted to become the best student I could be. And I don't know if I mentioned to you, high school academics was not my forte at all. I was one of those stories you hear about, when the athlete he's good and he shows up in school, so they just kind of allow him to hang out.
Yep.
And then they graduate, and I could read and count. I was smart enough to do that, but I really didn't show up because I struggled in school. I had problems reading, and, I was dyslexic maybe. Wow. I hadn't been diagnosed, and I didn't know it, and so I went to college with only one hope at that point, right? So, but when I got hurt, I found myself, oh man, one of those cold nights, sitting on the bed, wondering what the heck am I going to do now?
Right.
We all have those pivots in our life,
yep.
And I believe that, I had already learned how to focus on something, and make that my priority. And no matter what, I spent time on it every day. So I already had some tools. I just didn't know how I was going to learn how to be a student, because my grade point average was 1.99.
Wow.
I mean, it's a whole nother story. I can tell you how I actually got to 2.0, and it's a blessing from someone who threatened me, said, if I give you this and you blow it, I'm going to beat you.
We always need someone like that in our life.
Yeah. Thank God. I'm forever in his gracious appreciation. Paul Andreso, he tells me I can tell the story all the time. He made a difference in my life. Because he knew my parents, and all my brothers and sisters were really smart. That even made it worse. That I was struggling in school because they were so smart. And I was the dumb kid in the family, so to speak. But that, I believe the world puts you in those places to kind of grind you out a little bit. Take that piece of coal and sharpen it up. Put some heat on it, man. And if you don't give up, you're gonna get to the other side, Jen.
So how'd you get there? What happened?
Well, I said, okay, stop crying, because I did. What are you going to do next? You can't go back home. Failure, not graduating from college was not an option. So what do you have to do? So as you asked, I went and found out. I told the teacher, hey, I'm struggling in these areas. Here's where I struggle and how I struggle learning. So I got some tutors and I got some suggestions on learning. If you're going to school and you're a teacher, if you don't know the subject, read it ahead of time. And if you're confused at the end of class, find someone that can help you so you don't go home confused. So you can at least do the work and then go back the next day, show them I got help. I reached out and got tutors, and and I decided that, like I did in sports, I'm gonna figure out how to do this no matter what.
Right. Yep.
And it worked. I got out in 4 years on time. Graduated on the dean's list, and forever grateful.
Nice. Good for you.
Thank you.
That's fantastic.
So it can happen, if you never lose focus, or if you just realize that, if someone else did it, you can do it too.
Well, in a situation like this where you have a setback and then you set yourself up for that comeback, how did you do it in 2008? That's what I want to hear about, because so many real estate investors just dropped out. They lost everything with the downfall of the housing market. So how did you get that comeback within real estate?
That's an interesting question, and I can't take credit for other than surrendering, on a daily basis to a power greater than myself and asking for guidance first. Because I was building a business. I had the rental properties, and I was actually serving. I created another business, Jen, in the early 2000s, and that business was geared around providing specialty insulation for custom homes and small hotels. So that was kind of the business that I was really building, and the passive income properties were still there. So I was kind of a quasi dabbling investor at that time, but the impact was still major, because, if anybody knows anything about the housing industry and the destruction that it caused across the country, I went from, building a business that was, set to do multiple millions of dollars a year to $200 or $300 in receivables overnight.
Wow. Goodness.
Overnight. And then, it was kind of like, and just to share personally where I was too, I was, at that time I was going through a divorce. So I had all the emotional stuff going on. I had a business that, all my customers just disappeared overnight. And if you know anything about receivables, if the receivables go away, then the payables are still there.
Right.
So it was like, man, and I had, I was at that point that I was kind of, I had a lot of things that were paid for, and I'm like, okay, I got these debts. I need to satisfy them. So I'm going to go leverage all my assets to try and make it right. Okay. Because that's how I was raised. If you have a debt, you pay a debt,
right.
But finally, Jen, after, about 8 months of dumping hundreds of thousands of dollars into the pit of no return, my insurance agent came to me and said, Geoff, sometimes, when you're in a hole, you have to stop digging.
Right.
And, got to pause for a minute because I remember, I remember the repo man coming by. Let me paint a picture for you too, right? I'm in this neighborhood where, it's a nice neighborhood. It's kind of secluded, and you don't want, to be the bad neighbor on the block, right? So to speak. And you have this repo man knocking on your door, because, the last vehicle that you weren't able to maintain, they're looking for. I'm just being honest with you. I mean, so if anybody's out there that's looking for, a way to know that wherever situation you're in, you can make it, I mean, if you just don't give up, so I never answered the door. The repo man's going around my house with a flashlight, so I'm like, and I'm like, thinking, what do my neighbors think now, right? I mean, this young guy, and it's a neighbor. It was a street where everybody had families. I was a young guy on the street, and then I may have been egotistical a little bit,
right?
And because I wanted to have a car for every day of the week at that point. So I had 4 or 5 of them, and anyhow, all that stuff went away, and it was a blessing though. I think the world disrupts us at times when, our past need to be changed.
Absolutely.
Okay. Because I mentioned to you, I was doing the business. I liked the business, but I didn't love it. I still like the passive income side of it, but I always wanted to, I had heard from time to time about getting involved in real estate investing, and learning how to use other people's money and build a dynasty and build a future. Right. And I had heard about it, Jen, but I didn't believe that could happen for me, right? And I'm going to tell you a note here. Education is critical to any new venture, let alone what you're doing on a current basis.
Absolutely. Agree 1,000%.
Right. So investing in yourself is super important. So, I stumbled along trying to save my business for a couple of years. And then my wife and I had, got through the divorce, which was earlier on, so I was separate for a few years and kind of got my head together there, and I want to share if you're going through that situation, take your time getting back if you're going to remarry, and figure out what it is what role you played, both good and bad in that space, Jen, and don't repeat that.
Right.
I mean, it's important. So I had to get myself together first before I was worth being with somebody else. So I did that. And at the same time, kind of came across a high-level training and education system in real estate, and we invested in that. And, it was just it started out kind of slow. But, that was because I'm the kind of person, Jen, that is tell me a little bit about what I need to do and make sure I have a few ideas on how I can get started on it, and the rest of it I'll figure out later. And my new wife and daughter at that point were going to be partners in the business, but they had corporate jobs, so, and they're the opposite of me. There's that personality, Jen, that has to have all the dots, T's crossed and I's dotted and all the detail, and then maybe we'll start. So, we worked it out to where I said, all right, listen, here's what I'm going to do. Here's my plan. You guys focus on your careers and I'm going to get started. So, and that's what I did. So, the killer part though was our business that we started was in the Midwest, and we were living in Northern Virginia.
Ah. That's a distance, yes.
Quite a distance, and then it was crazy, okay, because, once I said, okay, when I went to work, in our class, we teach relationships with key people to build a business. And that one was finding out investor-friendly real estate agents. So, we built relationships with those agents that we already knew. And, the opportunities start coming in. So we went from, 30 days to one deal. And then over the next 12 months, did about 18 different deals.
That's awesome. And I think the important thing here is, you never gave up. Yes, you are at a very low point in your life, going through a divorce, dealing with having to all the leveraging of your assets, but you never gave up. And I love that. And you reinvested in yourself and created change that was so needed at the time. So I want to get into this whole mindset thing because you have some interesting points on here. And one of them you talk about is called transformational vocabulary and global metaphors. What in the world is that? Talk to me. I want to hear about this.
That's a higher end way of saying, watch what you say, because you're going to get what you say. Basically, Jen. And I want to add, you talked about habits always deliver results.
Yes.
And 90% of the habits are habitual.
Yep.
Right. So what do you think feeds our habits? Right. I mean, so I'm going to tie the two together. I'm going to make an effort to try and tie the two together and answer your question as well. Right. The transformational vocabulary is that we have to realize that what we say transforms our behavior. It creates, words have meaning, Jen.
Yes.
Right? And then the meaning creates the emotion, right? So, if you're in a state like I was, where I'm like, there were periods where I was like, when my business was going, I said, man, I'm not going to be able to make it. I may as well quit. So what do you think happened to my whole mental perspective? All my emotions focused on bringing me down. My body language, everything was just, going down the tubes.
I have on my wall right now, it says, careful what you tell yourself, it will come true. And that's exactly what you did. You were telling yourself, I can't do this. And that's what was happening.
Yeah. So now stall with me now. So now all of a sudden I'm like, I spend 5 minutes. I allow myself, and I get in those little pity parties, say, you got 5 minutes, man. I know you're here. I can feel you here, but we got to shake this up. Having conversations with me on myself. I encourage people to have the same conversation. Every day you get up, make sure you work on yourself first. Have that conversation, and because that will allow you to transform from that tired, lethargic, all of the thoughts you had in your head from last night's Netflix and the argument you had with your spouse, and the weather, all that noise, that external noise that you take with us that gets digested in our body, right? Our mindset. And so now you have that. So transformational vocabulary is words you use to shift, transform your state of mind. People in Houston, it's so cold, I can't go outside, I hate the snow, and yada, yada, yada. So what do you think they're doing for themselves? So I said, okay, well, how long is the snow going to be here? Right. Now, are you out in the streets, uncovered, homeless, or do you have nice, warm, comfortable space? Yeah, I do. Okay, so try and think about that for a minute. Find some gratitude in there too. You got to have a little gratitude to help that transformation. So we have the power. I say words have meaning. They create our emotions, and our emotions create our decisions, our actions, and the results we get. So I challenge people. It says on your wall, if it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you.
That's right. Come on. I got sayings all over the place here.
I love it. So that, and so, I like to take credit for that, but I invest in my self-education, and I have coaches and mentors, and I got that practice from Tony Robbins, and then he ties in the whole metaphor part, I get stressed out when I think about this, or, oh man, I worry about you all the time. So what do you think is going to happen? You're going to be stressed out. You're going to worry all the time. I can't focus. I don't remember names. All that stuff. And so we talk about replacing that. Okay, so what's the opposite of stress?
Happiness.
Happiness, exactly. Yes. What's the opposite of can't?
Do.
Yeah. And what's the opposite of failure?
Success. Right.
So then you add, I am a successful person that can do whatever I set my mind to.
a big one for me was saying, why is this happening to me? Whereas I had to learn, and I think it was through Tony Robbins, where it was, what is the lesson this is teaching me?
Yes.
So instead of looking at it as a challenge, it's more of, it's projecting me towards success, because I have to go through it to learn more. So you talked briefly about waking up in the morning and starting on yourself. So tell me about some of your daily success habits that you incorporate.
That's good. Yeah, I'll tell you, I one of the things I learned, 20 something years ago, from Zig Ziglar was, and Les Brown was, spend some time every day feeding your mind. Start in the morning. Read something that's going to get your mind set so that your space is right. So you're thinking, I can do versus I can't. So that you're thinking about other people and how you can serve other people. So I read, 15 minutes a day, or at least that every night before I go to bed. Now I read more than that during the day, but I've created that habit. No matter what, man, I was reading, I'd give me something, I'd read that every night before I went to bed. I'd like to tell you that I review my goals every day. I don't, but I this year, my wife and I have come together, and we've got a practice now and some really cool things we do. So we have a family meeting on Sunday about our goals. And then I look at mine, at least once a day. Okay. And then I fine tune them, so reviewing my goals, reading 15 minutes a day, taking some me time. My morning ritual is kind of, it's a cool thing, because I wake up in the morning, Jen, I say, okay, I find some calmness, and I stay in a state of gratitude, and I say my prayer and meditation, and, I try and close out the noise in my head, and I've been started to do some stretching now, in the morning, just to kind of learn how to breathe and stretch and relax myself. So I put myself first every morning. Sometimes I get an hour in, sometimes I get 5 minutes.
Right.
But I take the time to do that.
It's so important to start your day off right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I love my morning routine. My husband knows not to even talk to me before 9 a.m. So I wake up at 6, I do my thing for about an hour, and then I watch my Gayle King starting at 7 a.m. and I do some of my marketing at Crank Out, which is, mindless, just putting labels on letters or whatever it is. But that me time has made such a huge difference. So tell me about your company. It's called Transcending, what is it called?
Transcending Companies.
Okay, Transcending Companies. And so now you take these great habits, this mindset shift, and you help others. So how does that work?
That's a good question. We've got different documents that we use, Jim, but it's one of the tools we use is really, it's kind of a clarity tool. Oftentimes, how you see all the education about, we can teach you how to do this in 30 days, or we can teach you how to get a deal done in 7 days, and build this great investment business. But what's missing, we believe, is kind of doing a clarity tool on, okay, if you do that, then what? Okay, what's your life really look like currently? Where are you today, right now? Make an honest assessment of where you are. Okay, because if you're going to add a new business, you want to make sure that it fits. Right, so we really kind of have a huddle up, I'd like to say, in our training. So we figure out where you are. It's a 4-step tool. Kind of have a real discussion on where you are, and then we take a look at what you'd like to accomplish in the next 12 months. And this is really kind of cool, Jen. We kind of we figure out everything where you are and what you'd like to have. And then we ask you to take one step forward and look back over that year.
I love it.
And then that year you killed everything you focused on. I stabilized my current business. My relationship is the best place it's ever been in. My health is, I've lost 10 pounds or 15 pounds, and I'm exercising regularly. And my wife and I are a partner. We traveled and, really kind of doing the reverse, of sitting down, trying to write your goals. Tell us how your life was when you lived through your goals. You know, I mean, think about that for a minute.
Yep.
You know, I mean, and then it kind of shifts them. Okay, so and in that process, we talk about, if you want to build your real estate business, here are the steps you're going to have to do, and here's what's going to happen to you along the way, and here's what you have to do to pivot. You know, and here's the tools, mindset-wise, that you can do on a daily basis to keep your chin up, because you're going to get punched in the face.
Punched in the face. That's excellent. Welcome to real estate investing. Prepare to be punched in the face.
Prepare to be punched in the face, man. I'm sorry, I'm graphic.
I love that look back though. I did I think his last name is Cameron Harold, Vivid Vision, where it goes out 3 years and then you are telling a story as if what has happened to you in those 3 years. And it is crazy, all the stuff that has come true. We did it at the end of 2019. And so one of the things for me was I was going to do more public speaking. And then the coronavirus hit and I was like, well, shit, what am I going to do now? And so I fell into doing podcasting, and it's just opened up this medium to connect with people on a totally different level and then share it with everyone. So I love that strategy, because looking back and believing that you have already accomplished all those goals absolutely projects you into the future. It changes your mindset. It makes you feel like you've already accomplished it. And I think that's fantastic. That's such an important tool, especially when starting a business. So, how do people become part of this? Do you have a course you sell? How does all that work?
Yeah, no, that's great. And can I share a little bit about
Please.
what COVID has done for us and what you just shared?
Ugh, COVID. It's put 15 pounds on my rear end is what's happened to me. I'll tell you that.
I'm not going to say anything about that. That's,
I'm wearing sweatpants. You just can't see it. But yes, let's hear about it.
Oh, that's great. Hey, sweatpants are the new comfort wear.
So true.
It's so, but I love what you shared. You know, I mean, because I'm probably 3 months into my look back. I only did 12 months, but part of it was, I would have never envisioned sitting here talking to you like we are today, and the Zoom calls and the live Facebook meetings and all those things. You know, because I was the old-fashioned kind of guy. I'd speak in front of, in corporate America, I'd speak in front of hundreds of people and had, 40, 50 people reporting to me. So I was comfortable in that space. But, my wife tells me all the time, listen, you have to learn how to retext, and get into the new era of communication with your business. And we hadn't. And with COVID came along, again, I told you we're doing business in multiple locations. And I was on the plane on a regular basis. When Trump said no travel, everybody stay at home, I was like petrified.
Scary.
Right?
Yep.
Scary times. But it led me to, okay, all right, I got to figure out who can teach me how I can continue to, my business was okay because I had people on the ground and they knew what they were doing. I didn't, I was far enough away from that I didn't have to, it continued. We had processes and systems in places, so that part of it continued. But I was worried, more concerned about how do I get to my people that I was working with hands-on.
Right.
How do I, so that stopped. But, but then here we are with Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi with a program that helped me understand how to communicate, simply like you and I are doing. I'm sitting here in my home office, and a lot of times, Jen, I'm on this,
right,
communicating, and the power of that. And so,
is this KBB, by the way?
As a matter of fact, it is.
I am also KBB certified. And that's not Kelly Blue Book. It is, we are knowledge business brokers. So yes, continue. Sorry.
Yes. That's all right. I should have known, but so it's allowed, to me to be able, like you said, to reach people in a way, that I don't think I would have ever been able to, but be able to virtually connect with them still, and it's almost like being there, and sharing the message. And so we're creating in our training, we believe that, no person left behind as much as possible, for those that really need it, because certain programs, there's a big fallout, from the training. Everybody gets excited. They invest a lot of money, but only 5 or 10% do any work.
That's true.
So what happens to the 90% of those people?
Right.
So we've created or working on. We're going to open it 1st of March, a monthly membership for those folks that just want to be a part of a community. It's called the Mastermind for Newbies.
The Mastermind for Newbies. Excellent.
Yeah. So, and from that, they'll have the opportunities we've got some 6-week training and 6-month training courses that we're kind of finalizing. And then at the end of that, there's a year-end high-end mastermind group, where hopefully, if we do it correctly, it'll be made up of the people that are starting in the founders group. Collective genius, as you know, is so vital.
I love it. And I love the mastermind format because I too run a mastermind called RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. And it's just a situation where I learn. I feel like it benefits me more than the people who sign up for the course, because I feel like I learned so much from everybody working in the mastermind. And the smartest person I have another saying over there. The smartest person in the room is never as smart as all the people in the room. So I feel like those mastermind formats are so great to work together and assist others. So what's the website for that, for people to check it out?
Well, if they go to mastermind.com, and you'll see where it's a clear and simple path for new real estate investors is one of the courses.
Awesome.
But if they go to mastermind.com and look me up, you'll see some other under Geoff Tyson, or go to our website, transcendingcompanies.com. Again, transcendingcompanies.com. And Jen, we have a private Facebook group, and there's Transcending Lives of New Real Estate Investors. So, we kind of use the word transcending a lot because we thought about that name because it speaks to what we want to do, which is to kind of make a difference and pull people forward, and change lives.
Well, I can tell in the few minutes that I've gotten to know you that you are so gifted at doing that. So thank you for sharing that and having that opportunity there for people to grow and to be part of a mastermind. So I think that's fantastic. I like to do the second part of my podcast, and clearly you are a badass, is what makes you a badass. And it's an acronym. So the B in badass is book. What's a book that's made a difference in your life?
I've thought about that one long and hard, and the magic of thinking big, it's a workbook for me. It's a life workbook.
Who wrote that? Do you remember?
Napoleon Hill.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And actually, I'm sorry, Think and Grow Rich.
Oh, Think and Grow.
I put the magic of thinking big on there because that's my second. But Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Yes, huge.
Oh, huge. And he talks about the mastermind and how, there were at some point he created his own mastermind with Lincoln and some of the other folks. Can you imagine the power?
I can't imagin. But he created it. He was like the father of the mastermind. So
he was the father of the
love
mastermind. Yeah. So that book's awesome book. It's a workbook. It's a life book. So do that all the time. Mm-hmm.
Agree 1,000%. The first A in badass is advice. What is the best piece of advice you have ever received?
Man, that's a good one, and I'm going to give you two parts. One is a young man, my father, who was my hero. As an African-American man, back in the 50s and 60s, that was a different world. Lots of things going on. But he said to me, he says, listen, son, I want you to understand that there's going to be different things you're going to hear and people give you opinions of. But whoever that man is, he puts his pants on the same way you do.
Absolutely. Yep.
No matter who he is, he still puts him on the same way. He may have somebody help him, but he puts him on the same way. So remember that, never keep valuing yourself, number one. And then the part of that is that no matter how bad it gets or how hard it is, just tell yourself you can make it, on a daily basis. No matter how bad life is or how hard it gets, you can make it. And so those are my choice words that I use.
That's fantastic. The D in badass is drive. I'm very curious what drives you to be successful.
That's changed over the years. I think I mentioned to you initially it was because I didn't want to, and it still does today actually, and it goes all the way back, Jen, to when I was a little boy, and people told me that, you know what, you're odd. Because I had a big head. I still have a big head, but I was skinny, big head, big ears, right? And I looked a little funny because of big lips. And so, obviously kids tell you certain things. You're a teacher. You see it.
Yep.
You used to be a teacher. All that stuff, right? So, and they told me, and then I struggled in school. So I think I got held back in the first grade. And man, all the things that go along with that. So I'm a badass because I won't let what other people tell me hold me back. Never.
Awesome.
Yeah. So still today, and that drives me. When you talk about what gets me up, it's still proven to those relatives of mine that told me that you may as well go get a garbage man's job because what you're talking about doing, being a pilot and a movie star and owning your own business, you can forget about that because you can't even pass first grade. Wow. I still hear that. I still hear that today, and I thank them. I thank them, Jim, because I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you.
Prove them wrong.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So the second A is aspiration, and I'm a big goal setter. So what is a goal that you have coming up that you're currently working on?
Well, that's a good one, and I'm just going to put it out there in the universe. It's creating our mastermind, and creating, space for 1,000 people over the next 12 months at different levels that are in our family, in our community, in that community, and then building. Doing the same thing, reaching out, helping, changing lives in that community.
And I don't doubt that you aren't going to change the world. I believe it.
Wow.
The first S in badass is systems. So we heard a couple of your systems, your morning routine. Do you have any other systems that you want to share that help you to achieve success?
I'm working on creating an accountability partner. It's not so much a system, it's more of a relationship, and the other is, really working on finding a daily routine that I list. Kevin Leary talks about he has what he does every day. He has 3 things on his sticky note, a Post-it note, and those 3 things are on his Post-it note, and that's all he does. So I'm working on creating a discipline in my daily practices first that allow me to focus on needle movers and say no to all the rest.
And that accountability factor is just so important. Agreed, 1,000%.
Yeah.
All right, and the last S in badass is success. What does success mean to you?
Well, it's part of the journey for me. It's they say it a lot, but when you're in the journey, you really kind of recognize it. Success is really finding out what my purpose is and living in that. I don't know what the outcome's going to be, but I'm in that space, sitting here talking to you, and that's whatever that leads me to.
I love it. So I shared at the beginning of this podcast a badassery bestowment. Do you have a badassery bestowment you can share with my listeners?
Yours was so powerful. You know, I wrote it down. I stole it from you. So
those habits,
those sneaky habits. You know, I would say this, and I would say, remember, words create meaning. Meanings create our emotions. Our emotions control our decisions.
I think that's a great bestowment. Thank you for sharing that. And once again, how can my listeners find you? Are you on Facebook? Are you on LinkedIn?
Yes, Facebook, Facebook page, a personal Facebook page or a private Facebook page, Transcending Companies for New Investors, New Real Estate Investors, LinkedIn, transcendingcompanies.com. Hell, I even gave you my phone number if you're serious about that. That's 3. Am I able to do that?
You can give a phone number. Absolutely. Go ahead.
317-339-7862. And reach out and leave me a message. I do call. I do answer my messages still. And love to connect.
Well, you are fantastic. And I just want to point out that Geoff is spelled Geof. Correct?
Yeah,
right.
Geoff actually.
Oh, FF. Okay.
Yeah.
So that they can find you and make sure they are contacting the right one. So thank you so much, Geoff Tyson. You are just so wonderful. And that is all. Thank you for listening, and we will catch you on the next episode. Now go out there and share your badassery. And don't forget, make it a great day. Take care. Bye-bye. Whoop, whoop.
Thank you for listening to RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. If you need more badassery, you can follow Jen Josie by visiting therealjenjosie.com or become a member of RAIN by registering on rainmastermind.com.